changes from the work session, and then we'll have another discussion on this, Mr. City Manager, at our next work session.
Sure.
But let's go ahead and open it up to council members. Does anybody have any other?
Only one new thought occurred to me during this conversation, and that was instead of limiting, let's just use tow trucks since it's the one that's been most often mentioned. Instead of limiting those to one per home, could we say one per driver? So that if there were two people in the home that both worked for the tow truck, they could each have a tow truck if they got called, but that would eliminate an entire fleet being parked up and down the street. I mean, that's just a thought that I had. I don't know if it's even worth considering.
I've been thinking on the same things, Mr. Mayor. I supported last week when we discussed it. Initial thought was one commercial vehicle. But to me, we haven't defined what we're talking about in the front yard, on the street. If there's one on the street, that would be one limitation. Does that count for one driveway? There's two. So I would concur with what Mrs. Luck is thinking about, but I would also say if there's one on the street, but if there's one in the driveway, that's not on the street. As long as it's in good operating order and it's legal and licensed, I wouldn't have a problem with that. But that's just a thought right now, and I'd really like to have this rewritten and us discuss about the couple of things we haven't determined yet, so we have some time to vet it around and see what everybody in council is thinking.
And another thing we discussed last week that I don't think is clear to the public at all is our definition of commercial vehicles.
Absolutely.
None of us are in any way objecting to the average work vehicle like Mr. Waskey drives or Colonial Plumbing or whatever those work vans are. It's just the abnormally larger vehicles.
And Mr. Wood discussed that because the problem is right now it talks about gross weight. The police department can't go around weighing vehicles. He made a very educated stab last week at saying more than single axle. Is that double axle, triple axle? But if it's more than single, it probably has a larger gross weight, up in the 10,000 pound range on the average. But it was also brought to my attention that in the door jamb of most vehicles, you don't have to weigh them. The manufacturer's gross weight is tagged in there. That part of your vehicle registration is on the registration. So that's something, I don't know if we need to consider that or not, but there's some things that I feel like that we still need to discuss before we draw any lines in the sand.
Well, and that's what our goal is tonight, is to listen to the public, take what they have addressed, and it may have triggered some additional thoughts for council members, and then we'll take it to our July work session to expand upon. Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, last week I asked for two commercial vehicles, and I think that two commercial is enough as long as it's on the person's property or in front of the house. They have to be specific, but not scattered all over the neighborhood.
Vice Mayor Yates?
As I'm sitting here thinking about this, I don't even know if what I'm going to suggest is a possibility, but I'm going to throw it out there. I have been down Norwood when there was tow trucks parked on either side of the road. And as I drove down through there, creeping along between those vehicles, the thought came to my mind is if a fire truck was trying to get through here or an emergency vehicle, I really don't believe that there was room for all three of those vehicles side by side and the mirrors on them to physically make it through there. Would it be possible, I'm tagging off of what you said, Ms. Lockwood, allowing one per driver. Would it be possible to force them to both be parked on the same side of the street? I'm just asking. I don't even know if that's feasible. But when you've got them like this in the road, then you're dealing with a very narrow. And I think that's a real safety concern of mine. Is that possible to have it in the ordinance for there? I don't know.
You're the lawmakers.
It is possible.
Make any law.
It is possible.
That's
But, I mean, directly across the street, it just doesn't work for me. Huh? You can do that?
You can do it, you can do it.
Well, I know I can do it, but, I mean,
Council,
I know that, I don't know that there'd be 3 others that would agree with me, but, I mean, from a safety perspective, that would be the only way that I would be willing to say, is if
With that being said, being on the same side of the street, would you go along with putting them in the driveway? Get them totally off the street?
I think,
Or one could be put in the driveway?
again, we can expand on this, they're good thoughts, hold those, let's take it, let's table this and discuss it at our work session, yes?
I'll just clarify one thing for what folks who are remaining is that what we may have missed in last week's discussion is we completely recognize there are inconsistencies with our enforcement, with our current code. That's exactly what started this whole effort. Clearly, we've said we aren't enforcing the rules that are on the books, and we're not sure when they were enforced, how they're enforced. That's why we're having, before we begin to enforce them, before we begin to coordinate with the Commissioner of Revenue and none of the discussions we suggested we had tonight, that it's certainly our intention to eventually bring that all together. So we recognize that those are all problems, and again, once council just defines these larger policy issues, I'm confident all those things will fall in place, and it's certainly the staff's goal to be very consistent in how we enforce this. That's what we intend to do. So, but that'll be part of the whole process.
At least we know we do have item number 1 and number 2. I think resolved, yes.
As a point of clarity, Mr. Mattis brings up a good point. For those that weren't here last week, it was a point of clarity then that this was brought to council's attention by the Director of Planning in January's retreat. We, as a council, directed the city manager to have his staff relook the code, improve the code, or revise the code, and bring it back to council for consideration. They revised the code in close coordination with the city attorney. That had to be reviewed, and it was approved by the planning commission. That's part of what got the citizens up in arms, that this has been approved. It's been approved by the planning commission, which has to approve it before it can come to council. Okay? So the reason I bring this up is because council isn't looking to vote this down. We asked for it to be revised. We're looking for it to be approved once we get it the way we, majority vote, consider it to be to the best use of the citizens and small business owners of the city. So either approving it if we like it, or tabling it because we don't care for the verbiage that's there now and we'd like to revise that. That's why we're trying to do what we're doing now. Voting no against it right now would just say, no, we're not going to revise it, we're going to leave it exactly the way it is. We were the ones that gave them the directive to revise this, so that isn't really a viable option.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
if I could just say one thing, I don't mean this is, I'm not taking a position on this, I'm not weighing in the policy area, I just want to give you something to think about if you haven't, and that is, I really think you've got a threshold issue to think of as to how much you're going to honor the old adage in zoning of separating commercial and residential. Because what you're talking about doing is blending the commercial and residential, and in fact, undercutting the whole basis of modern zoning. That's what you're talking about. If you want to do that, that's fine. I'm not weighing in on that. That's what you're doing. You're talking about blending commercial and residential areas more than you presently do. That's one thought. The other is, I just ask you to think about the possible incentive you're creating for others to move into residential areas. You do have a certain element in the city, I'm sure, who knows about the current prohibition, whether they're being enforced or not, and are operating in commercial districts, who are going to see that they can now operate out of their home, eliminate the overhead, possibly cut back on their staff, and they're going to go to their home and operate. I just ask you to think about that.
That's some very good information.
But we are barring lines there too, because some of these people, like our tow truck services, that is their business. Customers don't come to them, but their commercial vehicle is there. Other people that have commercial vehicles, as has been suggested, the guy that's the plumber or the electrician, and he's on call that weekend, he's not running a small business out of his home, but he has to have his commercial vehicle with him. So there's worrying there, and I think these are more things that constitute us needing to reconsider a work session greater definition before making a decision.
We're gonna go ahead and have a further discussion at our next work session. So what we're gonna do, we still have 3 more public hearings to go through, and I see Mr. Lundy and Mr. Tyler there. I think you guys are gonna come up next on the public hearing. But let's take a 5-minute break, and we'll end the discussion on ordinance number 16-15. We'll need to table that. So do I have a motion to table? Second. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Grenier?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mrs. Locke?
Yes.
Mr. Trump?
Yes.
Mr. Wood?
Yes.
Ms. Yates?
Yes.
Mayor Tucci?
Yes, we'll take a 5-minute break, 5 minutes, and then we'll come back to